Well, thanks, Richard. And as you know, I mean, Zaidi was a new institution which was established in 2012, primarily to address the demand for horticulture in the island, simply because, as you know, almost 90% of the vegetables consumed in the island are basically imported from the mainland or sometimes from Kenya. So we saw the fact that there was an opportunity, and fortunately, TAP came on board in June 2013, and that's when we established the partnership agreement. And we really made a lot of progress simply because at the time we were very, very young. We have had no experience prior to the establishment of the company. And to briefly mention a few, I mean, we've been very successful in the sense of introducing things like, for instance, seedling production, which apparently didn't exist in the island at all. In fact, people had no idea. And apparently, we can see the acceptance of the farmers to, instead of buying seeds, to basically buy the seedlings from us. We also had a very successful seeds discount program with TAP, which was primarily aimed to introduce to the farmers good agricultural practices, as well as also the use of hybrid seeds, which in the past they were not really that familiar with, or the use of other agricultural technologies such as the drip irrigation or the greenhouse farming and so forth. In a year and a half or 2 years, we can obviously see that the people have really accepted these new realities, and they're trying to change at least from the old tradition of using old methods which were really not helping them increasing their yields or increasing their own productivity. So what we have right now is people or farmers who are coming to us, smallholders, who apparently were used to buy very cheap seeds, but with very little or no high yield or production, and they're accepting the reality of paying more for the hybrid seeds, paying more for the technology. So certainly, I can admit that the partnership between TAB and Zaidi resulted in TAB in Zaidi really becoming an institution that's reckoned with in the island. So without the support of TAB, I mean, certainly the situation for the company would have been really very difficult. And you can imagine now, Zaidi became a household name in the island, both in Unguja and Pemba. And as you would recall also, one of the primary reasons why we got into this was simply because of the fact there was lack of supply of inputs. In other words, there were no outlets in the island. There were few, but they were relatively very small, and they were relying on very low quality seeds and inputs that they were importing from outside. Now, fortunately, with the support of TAB, we have got two fully fledged outlets, both in Nguja and Bemba, and our sales are increasing. And you can imagine the primary objective also with the arrangement of the partnership was to improve the profitability of the company, which I can assure you the fact that we are gradually becoming profitable, and in fact we have already reached the break-even point. I mean, in 2 years. So that can tell you that without the support of TAP, certainly the situation would have been it would have taken us much longer to really become profitable or to become an entity that's recognized in Ireland. I think one important point that you have to recognize, and this was a message we got from Fintrack and TAP right from the beginning, was the reality of convincing the people the fact that agriculture is a business just like any other business. So that approach right from the beginning, in fact, changed our attitude as a company in the sense that we're not a charity, but basically we made sure the fact that the farmers and the smallholders understand the fact that this is a business, and this is a new concept to Zanzibaris in particular. Simply because you have to keep in mind that the mindset among the Zanzibaris is basically focused on trading, and the issue of production is not really there. So the strategy which was pushed by Fintrack and TAB right from the beginning to convince the people, to show them that this is a business just like any other business and it can be profitable, and in the long run at least it can be sustainable, was an important aspect that really helped us in terms of even improving our sales or increasing our sales. But at the same time, this combined with the technical support that we got from TAB in terms of, hiring agronomists that were helping at least, the company. In terms of the introduction of this seedling discount program, which in fact showed people, it was a kind of a demonstration to farmers to see that these seeds are really quite useful. Again, with the approach of treating agriculture as a business, as a commerce, changed their mentality in the sense that after the removal of the seedling subsidy program, apparently farmers are coming and still buying the seeds without the subsidy. So that was to me a major achievement from the point of view of our company, eventually becoming at least profitable, and even deepening the outreach into different parts of the island at the level of the village. This is an approach that we have discussed, the issue of selecting farmers who can be used as a model farmer. So when the farmers see the success of that particular model farmer, they are apparently replicating the practices that they got from there. And what we can see is the fact that people are looking at agriculture as a business. No, absolutely. And if you go around the island, I mean, basically what you find is shops are all over the place. And basically, what you find is that all these shops are basically selling the same items. So in fact, even from the point of view of the city layout or even plan, basically what you have is all the frontline buildings, the front part of the buildings are basically transformed into shops, and they are selling practically the same items: Coca-Cola, Fanta, biscuits and all these kind of things. So, I mean, agriculture hasn't been really something that, in fact, mostly they thought about, simply because, as I said earlier, 90% of the vegetables consumed in the island is coming from outside. Now, with the introduction of these good agricultural practices, the introduction of the seedling production, the introduction of, trainings of the farmers, the provision of the technical assistance from TAB and all this, and the penetration of the small-scale farmers at the village level, the mindset is changing. And this was one of the main challenges, which I believe if we can overcome that challenge of changing the mentality and the mindset of the people, and telling them or even convincing them that agriculture is a business just like any other business, it definitely will make a lot of difference. There's no question. Absolutely. And it's very clear that apparently they accepted it. A lot of people from the private sector are coming to us now, so much interested in greenhouses, so much interested in drip irrigation. This never existed before. And as you would recall, we had a lot of visitors from the senior government officials, and the issue of the concepts and the good agricultural practices, as well as the technologies that we have been introducing, in fact, was discussed at the cabinet level as an instrument which will help the government in addressing the issue of food security and poverty reduction. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can imagine Zaidi was a very small company. I mean, at the time when we started the partnership, we practically had about 2 or 3 staff. In fact, I was the main person who was running the show. And certainly, right from the beginning, we found out that the approach used by the Fintrack staff was really a very professional and collegial, in the sense, the fact that, yes, we are very small and they're coming from a bigger institution, but they accepted the reality, and in fact they're sitting down with us, making sure the fact that, we really understand, whatever requirements were there in the agreement. So certainly this was quite helpful. It was, in a sense, what I can tell you is that what you were demanding too much from us. And at the end of the day, when I really look at it from what we have gone through, I realized that this was really part of the capacity building, simply because you have a very, very stringent reporting requirements, which we had to accept and meet. So that eventually became a training for us. The same thing applies when it comes to financial management. We barely had any competencies in that area. I had a very junior lady who was the accountant. Now she's really competent in terms of knowing how to address very complex and very, very voluminous type of reporting on financial issues, on technical issues, on beneficiary issues, and so forth. So, in a sense, we really appreciated the resilience. In other words, delays in our submission of reports simply because of our capacity weaknesses. So, being in a position to really accommodate and recognize our weakness, but at the same time see how we can try to accomplish the achievements that we have made was absolutely remarkable. So. The part of it that I really liked the most was that we were working together as a family, in other words, as colleagues, and not really someone telling me, I'm the boss, you have to do this, and this and that. But whenever there was a question that we asked, always there was a response. Naturally, in this kind of situation, there are always challenges, And the challenge of meeting the reporting requirements of the TAB as well as also FinTrack was enormous. But I'm happy, at least, at the end of the game, we were able to really accomplish a lot. So, in a sense, it was a challenge, but at the same time, it was a capacity building, and I think we are better prepared now than we were before. And if we haven't had that kind of interaction with you and the resilience and patience on your part, I think certainly wouldn't have achieved what we have achieved today. So. I find the staff really commendable in terms of what they have done for us and how they accommodated us in terms of our working relationship, and in particular building our capacity as an institution. Because right now, I'm of the opinion the fact that we can deal with any partner, simply because I think TAB and Zaidi and TAB and USAID are probably one of the very few institutions in the development business who really have a very stringent and demanding reporting requirements, which if you don't meet, nothing moves. So that was to be a challenge, but at the same time, it was a very useful training and capacity building for us. Here in Arusha, and you had an office in Dar es Salaam, but apparently there was no presence a fiscal presence in Zanzibar. So that was a bit of a challenge to us, and certainly we would hope that at least in the future there is a full-fledged office in Zanzibar, simply because the distance is involved and the fact of relying on, say, primarily online communication. We would prefer to have that element of face-to-face, debate and discussion. And you would recall, whichever meeting that you guys came on occasional basis, we were able to cover a lot of grounds, but at the same time address a lot of issues, although the time was very short. But definitely that enabled us to address a lot of these challenges on the ground very easily. So my hope is that in the future you will be there with us. So at least, we can really feel the presence of the staff of TAB or the future, program financed by USAID. As I said earlier, one of the critical issues that we are facing in Zanzibar, and Zanzibar is not mainland, there is a big difference. There is very weak capacity. The knowledge of the farmers and their skills is relatively very weak. As I said earlier, people are more on to the mentality of trading, not really production. Agriculture has not been really that vibrant. So our primary focus as a company is really changing the mindset of the farmer. So in essence, we have done part of that task, and now we can see the result, simply because now we're selling more. Farmers are coming to us not only to buy, but at the same time to seek our advice in terms of if they have any diseases, if they have any problems, or any shortcomings in their own, agricultural, enterprise. So our focus is going to be again on that one. And in fact, what I believe is that the meal is half cooked. Certainly the meal, TAB and FinTrack has accomplished a lot, but the meal is not yet ready. So certainly we have to look at the issue of mindset, changing the mindset as a long term. It's not something that you can really handle in a year or two and then expect the fact that things would move from there. Now, from our point of view, if we change the mindset and people see agriculture as a business, that will mean the fact that, we will have people coming to us for more sales. And once we have more sales, that will tell you the fact that we will be a profitable company. So this is really what we are looking for, to continue changing the mindset through education, through IEC, information, education, communication, which will continue. But keep in mind that still we are a private company. So we are trying to partner with others like Taha, and in the future definitely with FinTrack and others, to see the fact that, we get support on areas that we do not have a comparative advantage. We cannot spend money on training. We cannot spend money on field days. So once we combine our effort of supply, making sure supplies are there, making sure the fact that they are good quality, making sure the fact that they are in a reasonable price, making sure the fact that we even educate the farmer on the sales point, certainly we would expect at least things will change. So that is our challenge, and that is where we hope, in fact, to continue focusing. Naturally, if when TAB comes back again, certainly this is an area that we need them to continue. The other important aspect which we think to focus on, as I said earlier, is making sure the fact that Zanzibar becomes self-sufficient in terms of production of vegetables. Simply because once we achieve that, definitely that will give you assurance of food security, assurance of poverty reduction, and at the same time increasing the incomes of the smallholder. Simply because right now those avenues or even opportunities are not really there. But we can see people coming up and basically making sure the fact that they really take advantage of the opportunities that are available. And we are really looking forward because, as I said, the meal is half cooked. So I don't think it will be. I understand the politics of international development and so forth. Having had my background as of working with development institutions like the African Development Bank and the World Bank, but you have to consider this as a long-term engagement. This is something that TAP cannot come in 1 year and then leave next year and expecting the fact that things will move, will continue moving. I think we expect at least a continuation of the support that you have provided, at least for another term, which will give us a better opportunity to really get out of the loop eventually.